Blessings. How's it going, family? All right. So we are here within the seasonal reset. Thank you so much for joining us within this call as we will be journeying with the season and involving cleansing with the season and the new moon. My name is Kati. As y'all may know me or not, I am a holistic therapist along with Ayurvedic practitioner and embodiment facilitator. I am excited to be introducing my dear sister here, Julia, who will be bringing in her background and her expertise within this field of cleansing. So I would like to pass it on to Julia.
Thank you, Kati. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a Hippocrates practitioner, as well as a past life hypnotherapist and a holistic counselor. And I'm happy to be here and to be working with Kati, beautiful sister. And we always have a good time when we work together. We learn, we continue learning. And I think that's why this space, when we're always together, is we always are open to learn and keep learning. um, yeah, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can learn from each other, and you can learn from us. And yeah, let's bring it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're saying of like we do learn from each other. What actually had us cross paths was because of Leslie University. We
School. Yeah.
we went into school together. Obviously, we didn't know each other, but it involved holistic psychology. So honestly, this is like over 12 years
Think
ago,
so, yeah, it's
about 12, 13 years ago. And so we've been in this journey for some time.
a long time.
And if you're not so familiar with my background, I have been in this path personally for about 18 years, but professionally and holding space for about 15 years because it started from not the counseling, but actually energy work. I actually started with my health 18 years ago, but energy work. And then from there, going on, which you can go ahead and check out the bio. But what I want to bring up here is that, you know, life is an ongoing journey of learning.
Constant learning.
And we have our seasons, and this is what brings us into the seasonal reset and why we even chose to bring in the topic of cleansing during the season. So, if there's anything additional you would like to add into that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because you said your health is what brought you into this space, and that's typically what brings people into the juicing space primarily. But really, most of these holistic healing spaces is health, or whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. But mine was physical health as well, and that's what brought me into it. And it took years and years of trial and error and diagnosis of diseases and reversing those diseases through this practice that we're in now. So yeah, I'm happy to share that and bring that and help others, so they may not have to go through such a trying and dive that we had to go through,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So, and it was interesting for me to come into the space. I came kicking and screaming. I did 9 years in the military, as in the Navy, and we tend to think, no, 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 we're not doing that. And I had to see it to believe it. It was just a different mindset. So for me to be in this world, if you had asked me 15 years ago, would you be doing that work? I would have laughed at you. Said, no way, get that. But here I am. That tells me a lot. That should tell you a lot too. So
Yeah. And this is where we're looking at embodiment. And as you may know, we speak a lot about embodiment. How do we show up within our practice? And, we actually are our first clients, we are our first practitioners for ourselves. So sometimes, if I'm speaking out, any of y'all that are practitioners, which I know we have a few here, but, when we are looking at holding space for others, it's also about like how are we holding space for ourselves? And as I mentioned, the journey started over 18 years ago for me. And it's because of the health. And it brought me needing to look at myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and of course, physically. But my health had to kick me right in the butt and like, hey, you got some things going on here. So this is why we bring up this area of seasonal reset, because at times we may not have that wake up call through our body. And hopefully we don't have to experience that to actually reset ourselves. Because when that does come in, sometimes it's not as a great feeling, right?
No,
It's
wasn't for me, you know.
and it's a shock to our system, it's a shock to everything. We end up questioning life, which at times is actually really good to be having. But this is what we are coming into this space today and sharing why it is important for us to journey with the season. So, we're going to now move into the essence, the spirit of spring cleaning and spring cleansing, and even just the season. Now, if you've been in the previous elemental pop up, we talked about shifting from winter into spring. And now we're actually a few weeks away before spring ends. So this is where I would like for y'all to go ahead and just sit with like, all right, how am I doing from that transition from winter to spring? Knowing that we only have 2, 3 weeks left. We've been in the spring season for about 2 months already. How are you doing in that? Sit with this right now and fill in how am I doing from that transition? What was unfolding within the months, the winter months, which is December, January, February, and then March is when we got into spring, right? So give yourself a moment right now and just kind of fill in. Am I still holding some things that were unfolding during the winter? Is there still parts of me that is still in the cave? Or if that is partially there, where am I now? Perhaps you were in the last call and you've been showing up for yourself and honoring where your body's at. And you're like, I'm ready and I'm here to plant the seeds. You prepare the soil, which is all about when we're looking into that transition of winter and spring. Spring is all about how is the soil that before you plant those seeds. So your soil in our last discussion that we've had, your soil is not just, looking outside and planting plants, you are a plant. How is your inner soil? How is your inner foundation? When you're imagining how this year will look, how has your body been feeling? Has it been feeling heavy? Has it been feeling stagnant? Has it been feeling dry? And so this is where we're going to go ahead and explore this. And I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and sit with that. Okay, so I trust that yeah has some space and time to go ahead and reflect. If there's anyone that's wanting to share that's pending and it's like in the tip of the tongue, or if you want to go ahead and put it in the chat, this will be a great moment for us to just have this space right now. Because again, this is involving more of your own reflection. How has it been so far within the past month and a half, 2 months into the spring? And how have you been feeling? How have you been doing in this spring season? Do you feel like you're about to go ahead and explore that? So I'm going to go ahead and start off with Julia.
So the spring season, time for a cleanse. I I've been feeling good. We've been cleansing. Actually, today is day 10.
8.
8?
Mm-hmm.
Feels like
I know.
today's day 8. Today's day 8 of our juice fast we've been doing. And I feel good. I feel good on this fast. Um we are in the Cape, we're in Cape Cod right now. So I love seafood. So that's been this is what I love about this is the part of juice fast that I love is the mental and emotional endurance that it builds within me. And I always call that, well, it's building character. And it also for me, it builds mental stamina. Like it's a challenge, so I take it on as is not just a physical cleanse, it's also spiritual, emotional, and mental. So, I say let's embrace the suck because as okay, so I'm going to share something with you. So I always hear people talk about juice cleanses and oh, they're wonderful, they're fabulous, and I'm thinking, no, they suck, but it's okay. It's okay that they suck. Yeah, they're wonderful and they're fabulous, but let's be real. They're challenging, and that's why I like doing them. I love the mental and the emotional and the spiritual challenge it gives me because I do feel a difference in the vibration that I give to myself and resonate within myself. And that alone makes everything more clear around me. So my thoughts get more clear. Are they're a little chattery and racy, but because I'm juicing and I'm thinking a lot. So and it's interesting how we do that when we juice, because when I juice, it's the same things. I don't complicate it. I don't try to create all these fancy recipes. I just juice the same things every morning, noon, and night. It's the same. And so I take all the science out of it, the guessing out of it, and boom, that's what I juice. That's what I'm going to go with. And also, it depends on why I'm juicing. But what that does for me is it makes me realize how much food that we're inundated with commercials and billboards and people and events and socializing, and that's where all the chatter starts coming in. So now I'm not thinking about what am I going to eat tonight for dinner or lunch or breakfast. And so the chatter becomes different in my mind. And everybody's different. But for me, um, it's cool. It's cool. The challenge becomes very cool, and a lot comes out of that in the end, where I challenge myself and I realize, okay, I can do this, or this came up. And so it's more, it becomes more than just juicing. And that's my point. It's more than just juicing. Kind of cool.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And honestly, for myself, and I'll definitely get into these comments here. Thank you for sharing. For myself, I would say that um, the transition in, you may have heard in the previous call that we had from winter into spring it was good. It was good. But I will say my spring from Peru into Turkey, my diet, um, I felt it in my body. I felt it like, okay, I'm gonna have to do a good cleanse, which honestly, it aligned perfectly as far as us going into a juice cleanse. Because this time of the year, me and Julia usually are meeting up
Always, right?
and we're constantly checking in with each other and like how we
Why
doing,
would
where
we
you doing.
plan it that
I
way?
know
It
it
just
like, and it
happens.
just naturally
You're
happens.
available, I'm available. We're like, let's do this.
Perfect.
Mhm.
And last year, actually, it was during April, it was during the spring season. We also provided like a private retreat and guiding a group of people.
That's
So,
fun.
so I would say for this season for me, yeah, my body totally was feeling like, yeah, I need a reset, I need a cleanse. And I recognize like we've been doing this for a few years and it's been just us. And this is what brings us here.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for joining within this call. I'm going to go ahead and just check in what are the comments that are coming in. And
Yeah.
okay. All right. So you've been needing a cleanse. You've been feeling heavy. All right. Can totally resonate with that. It's
Yeah.
exactly how I
Yeah.
felt as well, based on what I was
Mhm.
eating out in Turkey, especially. And what else do we have? Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, so you notice your system has been a bit off and needing to clear things out emotionally. All right. So this is what brings us here, right? We're looking at the seasons, and I'm going to go into that topic as well. Like why also, you know, what is the traditions within season? Why seasonal, like spring cleaning is even part of it. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to go ahead and be mindful of the time because I know we can go even further, but when we're looking at the spring cleaning, did you know that there is several traditions out in the world right now and before that has spring cleaning as part of their practice and also part of the new year? So spring in a good percentage of cultures outside of the US actually see spring as the new year. They don't even consider January
January 1st.
1st
Yeah.
as the new year as we do, as following the Gregorian calendar. So spring is actually considered more of the new year. That's why we talk about planting seeds. That's why when we look at the schedule of the farmers and when they plant and when they're preparing, it's the same with us. So really, life begins during the spring. But when we're looking at towards the end of the spring, how are we doing? Why do they say spring cleaning is so important? Because we've been sitting during the winter. Things have been sitting we've been cold, we've been keeping warm, we've been hibernating, we've been meditating, we've been sitting with things of what happened the prior year. And this is where spring is like, all right, coming out of that shell, coming out of that cave. And sometimes when we're trying to come out that cave, we feel a bit heavy. We feel a bit, little rusty. And so this is where the spring cleaning, like, all right, let me go ahead and clean out my house. I don't use these clothes anymore. And it's actually the same thing internally. When we're looking at internally within ourselves, not only just looking at it mentally, because of course that is so important as far as mindset,
Very.
right? But physically, internally towards your health, how is your health doing? Because actually our gut, I would say, is considered more of the first brain. They call
Oh
it
yeah,
they
definitely.
call it the second brain.
No, I think yeah,
It's totally the first
definitely.
brain. Because if our gut is not right, our mind is not going to be
No.
right. And
Y-
looking and good.
Well, I mean, it's a gut feeling, right?
Exactly. So how many people have a disconnection with their gut feeling?
Yeah.
Who's been working on their gut feeling? Give me a few hands up.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Right? So
Yep.
we have a few people that like, yeah, you've been on a journey like, wow, I used to trust my gut. Now I don't
Mhm.
trust it because
Yeah.
it hasn't been coming out clear, or I don't know what to trust. This is where our relationship with ourselves and our body and really checking in with our body. How are we feeling?
Yeah.
And so the cleansing, the clearing is the most important part, because if we are still packed with old stuff, old stuff that is just lingering and sitting
Yeah.
and needing to be let go, a cleanse will totally support you through
Yeah.
this process. So again, it's not just your room, it's not just your closet, it's not just your home, it's not just your car. It is mentally,
Mm.
it is emotionally, and it's also physically.
Physically, absolutely.
So right now, just acknowledging of how many cultures do exist and actually practice spring cleaning. Like this has been way before us. This
Oh,
is
way.
something that
I
they've
mean,
been doing
thousands of years. Yeah.
thousands of years.
And it's interesting because I think with all the studies with the gut and the second, they're calling it the second brain, but and it's interesting because we're just kind of coming full circle. It's taken millennials to do it. So, but
But we're
we're
here.
here. Yeah.
And it's like having for us not to wait for us to get sick to actually do something.
Yeah. And that's what people usually do. They usually wait till they get sick. I mean, that's what really spearheaded me into my journey, was my type 2 diabetes diagnosis in 2013. I mean, I was going down this road before that. In 2003, 2004 is when I really started reading, but I didn't wasn't applying it. And then I got a diagnosis, and then I went through the stages of grief. It was crazy. I went through denial. Like, no way. I did not, that is not me. I did not have this condition. I did. And they wanted to put me on metformin. And yeah, so I had to go through the stages of grief to finally, realize I did this to myself. So I changed my diet. I found Hippocrates, um, and then I gave the disease back to the universe. I said, thank you, but no thank you.
It's like, thank you for that wake up call.
Right?
Okay.
So I don't regret it. It took me down a path. It spearheaded me down a road that I'm at now. And so, yeah, I don't regret it. It sucked at the moment. It really sucked.
Yeah.
And, but I haven't, 6 months after I got tested again, and my A1Cs have been completely normal since I changed my diet. So,
What?
yeah.
So this is the thing, right? This is where the embodiment of what we practice is at. We practice it on ourselves. So as we go into acknowledging that realm of spring cleaning, where it's also internally, the beauty part of it is not just you. You know who else is cleansing out and preparing the land? Pachamama, Mother Earth. She's also gone through a shift herself so that she can go ahead and receive the seeds, so that she can go ahead and create the growth of that seed that's being planted, so it can feed the people of the earth. It can feed not just the people, the animals, every creature of the earth. So not only the trees have been hibernating, right? The animals have been hibernating. So when we're looking at the spring cleaning, it's also happening along with the natural world. So this is us making that shift and that change with the natural world, with Pachamama. And that's where it gets reinforced. I always talk about like if you ever lose focus of what your purpose is, take yourself outside in the natural world because every tree and every bird is living their purpose. A bird is not trying to be a dog. A tree is not trying to be a freaking bug. They're living in their purpose. And this is where we come in and really follow and come back to those traditions of coming back to our relationship with the earth.
Yeah.
So to continue on, is there anything else you want to add before we go into the next topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the area of Ayurveda. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this forward because obviously Ayurveda is working along with the elements, and we're looking at ether, air, fire, water, earth. And if you are familiar with Ayurveda, we're talking about Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Now, I'm going to touch on this briefly because honestly, we can go on. I've been on this path with Ayurveda for over 13 years and I'm constantly still learning of this. So please do not try to like figure it all out. Allow yourself to just receive this right now. So when we're looking at ether, air, fire, water, earth, because we're going through the lens of Ayurveda, we're looking at Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So Vata has a relationship with the spiritual world. It is made of ether air. When we think of ether air, you can't actually grasp it, right? You can't catch it. Like, let me try to catch this air, right? No, but it's made out of space. It's made out of air. It's made out of what we have here in front of us. And when we're looking at it within the season and how it impacts towards what we're living in this life, Vata is also known as a creative. Vata has that relationship with spirit. Vata totally tends to journey out in the ethers. You ever found someone that is literally at times just like zoned out? They're out in the ethers. And this is why, one of the big things that people that are creative and have that in relationship with spirit, this is why when it comes down to cleanses, Vatas have to be very, very conscious and careful because they already have that emptiness and that relationship with the unknown and emptiness. Okay. So what does this have to do with spring? Vata, spring is actually the time of the year of dryness. Winter is the cold. It is more of that ether, and the air is more of spring. So that means with having Vata, ether air, the creative person, the person that journeys out in the spiritual realm a lot, this is where we want to prepare the Vata. We want to prepare it and make sure that that person is hydrating before any cleanses. You want to make sure that person is fully preparing their intestinal, their adrenals, their organs that involves their waterworks, which is looking at kidneys, bladder. Like this is again whole other teaching that we could go into, but right now ether air, the creatives, the ones that journeys out already, we want to make sure that they're hydrated. So this is where preparation comes in, which we have a section that we'll be talking about. But Vatas are the ones that you have to be really mindful of that cleansing process. Honestly, every single one. Vata Pitta Kapha has to be mindful of every single cleansing process. And when you can tell that Vatas, if you struggle of having dry mouth or dry skin, if you struggle of experiencing cold hands and cold feet. So if you have those symptoms, that's where like, ooh, okay, I'm definitely running more Vata. If you struggle and losing your concentration, or even if you find yourself constantly thinking, constantly in your mind, we got some extra Vata happening, extra ether air up in your space, up in your body. Okay. Then we have Pitta. Pitta is known for the fire and water. Now, Pitta is also known of having like they're intact with their voice, they will communicate, they are known as leaders, they are the action takers. Okay, I know I just said a whole lot about Pitta, but there's a whole lot for each and every one.
Yeah.
But with Pitta, they do have a journey where they experience a good percentage in their body inflammation. And because of that fire and because of that water, so when we're looking at inflammation in the body, we're also looking at situations with, you know, easily getting hurt, along with having stools, like your stool is loose, along with having like heating up easily, like you get hot easily. So that's when we're these again, just briefly on the symptoms with Pitta. But with Pitta does experience a good percentage of inflammation in the body. And if I can just touch briefly on the cravings, Pitta loves spicy. They love that Mexican food. They love the things that are like just spiciness and builds it up. And also, Pitta tends to be a good percentage of the time a lot at happy hour. So just a little something right there. And with Pitta, you know, their preparation is also the same. It's like really preparing their body. And again, we're going to go into it later, but they do require a preparation before going into it. It's like really checking their diet before they go into any form of cleanses. Now, Kapha, which is water and earth, excuse me, which is water and earth, Kapha is known as like the mama bear. They are known for the nurturer. They care, they love, and they also tend to put others first before themselves. They know how to hold space. They know how to hold space for another soul. Like someone's crying, someone's in it, they're right there holding it back. Anyone that's in their field, they feel safe with them. So Kapha, their journey is actually, you know, is having to put themselves first. So that's more of like the
Yeah.
psychological, right?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
for Kava.
Putting themselves first is a practice.
Yeah.
And along with their journey is sometimes they do hide behind their food. What I mean is they go ahead and like, well, I deserve this. And they go ahead and start eating
Mhm.
the sweets. Well, I deserve the sweetness. I deserve this love. Or they go ahead and hide away and have, you know, whatever is that they don't want for other people to know. So really, it does involve a lot of worthiness and
Yep.
deserving. So within Kapha, Kapha's journey is having to make space for themselves. What are the symptoms for Kapha? They tend to experience edema. They also tend to experience at times a form of constipation. Vatas are known for more of the constipation, but constipation because there's a lot of mucus for Kapha in the intestinal lining, and also they're emotional eaters. So we're looking at emotional eaters, we're looking at souls that literally place other people first. That's another symptom. Like these are all symptoms that again that I'm just touching lightly on and witnessing ourselves in it. Because at the end of the day, we are all Vata, Pitta, Kapha.
Mhm.
We all have ether, air, fire, water, earth in our bodies. But there will be parts of them that are a lot louder than the other. I'm ether, air dominant, secondary, Kapha, which is water, earth. So I would see more of myself coming out of my body, which has been my journey, and why my journey has been of why embodiment. So, you know, that's part of our soul journey.
Yeah.
So when we are looking at ourselves and we are feeling into this, we want to go ahead and really acknowledge the fact that with the springtime for Vata Pitta Kapha, Kapha also requires that, you know, Kapha's been sitting in hibernation mode in that winter time. Kapha needs that stir up, needs that cleanse, needs things to move because things have been sitting. So it's like cleansing the home gets Kapha moving a bit, gets physically moving because Kapha tends to sit, but then also Kapha also has parts within themselves that has been sitting. And man, those cleanses are so amazing and important for each and every dosha, but Kapha themselves also is very supportive for their journey and where they're at because of the seasonal shifts that we're in. So acknowledging the impact that each one experience within their body. As I mentioned, the dryness can show up, the cold hands can show up, the leaving the body and losing concentration can show up with Vata. With Pitta is more of that inflammation response, easily going in for things that are spicy and that can impact their intestinal lining as well, and their stools, and also their attitude. And, again, how they express themselves. They're extremely fiery and not being mindful of others. And that's the journey of Pitta as well. And then we have Kapha, which is more of like really placing themselves first. So when we're looking at Kapha, we're looking at, all right, have they been emotionally eating? Have they also been showing up and caring for themselves and loving themselves the way how they love their community, their family, their loved ones? So this is where we want to approach the seasonal reset, really looking like, okay, which one am I leaning more into? And I want to give you this moment because we will have a moment to pause to like reflect which dosha, which element do I find myself falling into more? Where in my body am I seeing this showing up a bit more than the other? Because again, there's a whole lot of list of symptoms that comes up for each and every dosha. Not diving into it today, but just having an idea. Okay, if we think about water, earth, we are thinking about heavy, we're thinking about, things sitting stagnant. And you can even just feel into yourself. How do I feel in my body? Do I feel fired up? Do I feel like my mind is sharp? Do I feel like my mind has been chattering where I can't pause it and be in there? Again, that's Vata. Do I feel depressed? Do I find myself also like wanting to make a change, but I don't have any motivation? Do I also know like I have this vision, but I feel like my environment is not supporting me? Because we have to remember our outside world is literally a mirror of our inner world. So this is where this space here that we're in, which I know all of you are familiar with, this space here is about us working on ourselves and recognizing that our inner world is literally a reflection. We're going to see it in our outside world. And we also have the choice of shifting that in our outside world too, choosing. Whole nother discussion. So just to get an idea of that, we're going to go into recommendations, preparations a little bit later. But the common things of what I want to come in and to close this area of Ayurveda and how each dosha plays a role within the spring season. This is where we're going to, touch in why I speak a lot about self-massage and why that's important, along with, hydration, along with your herbals. Again, we'll go into a little bit of that a little bit later, but for us to continue, is there anything you want to share on anything before we go on?
No, I'm definitely I'm moving out of Kapha. I was heavy, heavy, heavy in Kapha. I remember heavy. And that had to change.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I mentioned, like I've been in freaking Vata
Mhm.
mode, and then from there I found myself in Kapha mode
Mhm.
because there's so many like characteristics within each and every dosha.
Yeah, I think as women too. I think Kapha,
Oh
uh,
yeah, it's like part of
and
us
then
automatically.
Pitta with the hot sauce.
I actually needed Pitta.
Yeah,
I actually needed hot sauce in my
yeah.
diet because Pitta hasn't been like I didn't experience so much of inflammation.
Mhm.
So I needed more of that hot sauce, but the natural, pure hot sauce.
Ginger.
Yes. So right now I'm gonna give just a moment for y'all to just reflect and just, you can share in the comments. And let me see what's here. Yeah, just share in the comments where you're at and before we go ahead and move into the next topic. All right, so here we go. We got some comments here. And what I see here, someone has gone through each and every stage of the Vata Pitta Kapha. Yes. And like I mentioned earlier, we are all of the elements. We are not just one. So if you did find yourself being in more of the Vata or the Pitta or the Kapha, hey, your body's flowing through each and every element. Okay, and I'm going to go through these questions briefly because we will have a Q&A section. Um, can a person change through each one? Well, like I mentioned, right? Like, because we are Vata Pitta Kapha, we are actually meant to change. And yet we do have our birth constitution. Our birth constitution, what that is considered also your prakriti, that first breath that your soul took into your body chose the karmic journey of that element. So that's where your birth constitution called prakriti comes forward. Okay. So that is like your solid one. It's there with you your entire life. And then you have your Vikruti, which is what you experience throughout life. Things happen that ends up having you fall into more to Pitta or Kapha or Vata more than the other. So again, if you find yourself feeling more into the Pitta zone, you might be more Pitta. Or if you find yourself more the Pitta and the Kapha, you might be more Pitta and Kapha. So when we're looking at birth constitution, we are looking at the dominant, which, for example, I'm going to give myself, I'm a Vata dominant, but then it has characteristics, which is, again, a whole nother discussion there. And then you have the secondary. I'm Kapha, secondary. So that means my journey, my soul journey, this physical human being journey, is that I journey through Vata and Kapha. And that means that I am going to experience things with my nervous system. I am going to be experiencing spiritually. I am also going to be experiencing things with my body and with myself and my emotional connections with others, which is involving more of that kapha, and then all these other parts. Okay, so again, let's go ahead. We'll explore more of the Q&A a bit later in our call. And we're now going to pass the mic to Julia, as she will be going into her approach and through cleanses, her prakritis, and her specialties of it. And if you have any questions, again, we will have a Q&A.
Yeah. Hi. So thank you for that. It was I love when you talk about that. I always learn something new every time you bring it up. I'm like, okay, so because I always want to understand it, birth, and it's fun stuff. So let's just talk briefly on the types of cleanses. So what type of cleanse do you think we're doing now?
You asking me right now?
Yeah, what's good? Yeah.
I mean, right now we're doing a juice cleanse, but we're also as a combination of a bone broth.
Yes.
So as a juice and bone broth cleanse.
It's a very healing cleanse. I think this time for me, it was a very cellular healing type of cleanse for me. And when you decide to do a juice cleanse, the type matters. If it's your first cleanse, you really kind of want to understand why you're doing. The why is the most important. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing the cleanse? What is your purpose? Where are you doing it for spiritual reasons? Are you doing it for physical reasons? So there are different types of cleanses to do. The water fasting, that's another one. We can dive into that a little bit too. I completed a 3-day water fast 2 months ago, and I loved it. I hated it, but I loved it because I knew I was definitely doing some serious healing. It was intense, and I loved it, and I hated it. And that's okay. So you could do, water cleanses. That you could stick with fruit juices. You could stick. I'm not a fan of that, but there is a place for all of it. Just juice herbs and greens with very little fruit. I'm more of a fan of that one. And then the water cleanse, and then you can combine bone broth, which is great. I got to tell you, this is my favorite, and not because we got to have bone broth, but because I definitely felt a deep cleanse. I felt a deeper cleanse with this one. I think for me, this time and this time in my life, with all the cleanses that I've done, I think for me, it's because it really did some deep gut healing. And I think that's attributed to the bone broth. So I really have enjoyed it. So that's been good. So What is a cleanse? What is a cleanse? Um, well, I'd have to step back and go to the beginning of my first cleanse. So a cleanse is exactly what it says. It's a cleanse. You're cleansing out. You are healing the body. And I think when people think about a juice cleanse, they kind of get away from the why, right? Or maybe there isn't a why, because I know it became popular and everybody was just doing them to be doing them because it was popular. You really have to have a why. You really have to understand why you're doing this, why you're putting your body, because it is a change and it's a drastic change. You are not chewing.
That's a big one.
Let's just start with that. That's what a juice cleanse really is. You are not chewing for the duration from beginning to end. No chewing, zero chewing. And I filter my juices. I filter them. I get them, I strain them. So you don't feel any, there's no chunks, it's just juice. It's like drinking flavored water, really good flavored water, very high nutrient flavored water. But that's what it cleanses. No chewing, no chewing. And you have to have a purpose. You have to have your why. You have to have your reason. Because when it gets tough, you need to go back to your why. Why am I doing this? Is it worth it to keep going when you are wanting to quit? You have to really, really understand your why and go deep with the why. Okay. Is it healing? Is it spiritual healing? Is it to raise your vibration? Is it to wake up your cells? Is it to go into autophagy? Is it to, renew your mitochondria? I mean, you really have to understand your why and go deep with your why. Um, and then once you really deep dive into that, then you can understand the benefits, and then you'll really feel and see and understand the benefits of a juice cleanse. So for me, my first juice cleanse, I was all about detoxing. And I don't remember how many years ago it was. I did a 28-day cleanse. It was my first juice cleanse. I did 28 days. I pulled the trigger. The, I don't advise this. I didn't even start with a 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day. I ripped the cord off and did a 28-day cleanse. Day 4, I was hugging the toilet. I was puking my brains out because I was detoxing. And it didn't have to be like that. But I didn't have a practitioner. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have guidance. I just was juicing a bunch of greens and green apples and carrots. And my body said, "Excuse you, how dare you?" And it reacted. It pushed back. And I had massive migraine headache. I could have committed a homicide that day. I'll never forget that. I had to make apologies to my family at the time because I was a raving lunatic. I really was about to catch a felony. Yeah. Oh yeah, I wouldn't advise that, but it was fun. Good times. I don't regret it. I did at the time, but I did stick with it because I kept going back to my why. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? And I stuck with it and I completed 28 days. And it was interesting because after day 7, it was like eating a burger. It didn't matter. It was just like, all right, it's time for breakfast, it's time for lunch, it's time for dinner. And I did it. And it was interesting because after day 7, it was nothing. So easy. But you have to really define your why. You have to understand your why. Why are you doing this? Um, it 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 did what it did for me, that 28-day cleanse, what it did for me is really allowed me to reset my palate and change my eating habits and really understand. And then I was able to introduce things back in and see how my body felt. How did my body react to that? And um, if my body didn't react kindly to like after that 28-day cleanse, now this was years ago, so I was still learning. Um, and I hadn't been through Hippocrates yet. So I was like just running from, just my body. if I had pasta or white bread, I noticed an immediate reaction that I didn't notice before because I never did a juice fast, especially a 28-day one. So I completely reset a lot of my cells. So when I introduced new foods, I was able to say, okay, that's that's not good for me. So I realized right away, um, it was gluten, like it was white bread, white rice, white pasta, I would have this heaviness and this difficulty breathing. And I'd always had it all my life, but I didn't know where, it came from or where it got exasperated from. So yeah, that was interesting. And that was another reason not to regret doing it. Day 4, I was regretting it, but I stuck with it, thank God. And I don't know why. I have no idea why. Every bone in my body said, cut this out. This is horrible. But I stuck with it. And I'm so grateful I did. So grateful I did. That's the military. That's the military in me. Embrace the suck. Um, so I did stick with it, and that was the beauty of that juice fast, was reintroducing food and then finally recognizing what I shouldn't be eating, or I should be eating only at a very minimum, like cheat, like once in a blue moon, because I knew this is not good for my body. My body's reacting to this, and I don't need it. And thank God I did that. So that was a huge, huge learning experience. I really enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy it, but then I enjoyed it. So
So I do have a question,
yeah.
knowing that you didn't have a practitioner, but
No.
what made you want to do the cleanse? Did you research it? Did you see what it does to your organs of your body? Like, is that what
I did
encouraged
a
you?
deep dive research,
And what did you
and
find? Like, what did you find out about cleanses?
so I had just gotten diagnosed with diabetes, and they wanted to put me on these medications. And I, so angry at myself. And I said, no, 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 no. So I um, came across some documentaries and some research. So then I started researching and reading and reading and reading and researching. And I learned that if you juiced, and I was very cautious about my first, that 28-day. The only fruit I used was the green apple, and I used minimum. If I did um, a 36-ounce juice, I only had 2 apples in it, and I cored it. Um, and now I only do 1. Like, that's sweet enough. But then I was still eating like crap, so 2 and then I did carrots and a lot of spinach and a lot of stuff. I don't really juice spinach anymore though, because I've learned, I've learned a lot since. But yeah.
So what did you find in your research that
And
was important? I mean, I'm pretty sure you didn't just say, oh, juicing is good. No, you had to
no,
find out what it
no.
done to the body. So what
So
does
what
it
I
do
found
for the
out in my
body?
okay, so what I learned in my research then, and I've learned so much
And
since,
now, this because
is
it's a
that
combination.
what you needed to do was, what the juicing did is it allowed your body to not go through digestion. So when your body doesn't go through a whole digestion process, so your body doesn't have to aid in digestion because you're just throwing down liquids. And I did learn that early, to filter it, to have a very clean juice, like no chunks, no fiber. What that allowed my body to do, because all the organs didn't have to play a role in digesting, my body was able to now heal, right? So I was still filling my body with nutrients and minerals. So I was still getting, so I never felt hungry at all. That 28-day juice, I never felt hungry. People were like, how could you do that? Never felt hungry because I was flooding my body with nutrients, and the digestive process wasn't occurring in my body. So my body was able to go to different systems and heal. And it did. I healed a lot, like all my adult acne cleared up. I had severe cyst acne, like adult cyst acne, because I was also diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I had a lot of crazy symptoms going on. When I did that, a lot of those symptoms lifted. It was crazy. I was being told I was going to have to be on hormone medication, metformin for my diabetes. I was a mess. I legit was a mess. I had a cane. The VA issued me a cane to walk. I mean, I looked nothing like I look now. I was a mess. And that 28-day juice fast really is what kept me going to keep researching and saying, if that did so much for me, what else could I do?
Mhm.
So then here's one thing that I really, really, really find important when you do a juice fast. Find your why. And then when you do the fast, um, don't go back to the crap. Like you're doing a reset. So now you have to reintroduce foods and in your body and find out what foods are healing for you. So, you know, so 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 what else like the background
Yeah,
like
so when we're looking at like, you notice how it resetted your
it
system.
did, it resetted my
It's
system.
a cellular reset.
It
But
was
what's happening, like your digestion takes a break,
it
you
took a
said, right?
complete break for
So
28
what's
days.
going on in the liver? Because you even said it, your acne cleared out, but your acne cleared out because you gave also your liver a break from having all the fatty oils.
Right.
So what's happening in the body that cleanses are recommended?
So what that cleanses are recommended, like for different issues or what's happening in the body?
Yeah, like what's
Okay.
happening in the body. Let's talk about symptoms
So,
that cleanses would be recommended.
oh, eczema, acne. Mine was diabetes, um, heart disease. Every disease out there. Now, there are some that you probably you always should.
IBS,
Oh
so
yeah.
there's a lot of
So like
diseases, but what's happening in the body that cleanses are helping? Is it giving like a reset towards the liver?
it's giving the
It's
whole system, every system in
well,
your body, it's resetting.
but
It's
remember, not everyone knows about the organs of the system, but
right.
like this is where
Okay. So now, the one system that you brought up was like the digestive system, like people with Crohn's and stomach issues. If they juice, they may feel like worse. And that's where you have to really, and of course, I learned all this later when I don't have those issues, but I had to learn this through working with clients and doing deep dives and studies. Like if you have stomach issues, and that's a prevalent, I didn't realize how prevalent stomach issues were, like Crohn's disease,
yeah.
IBS. It's no wonder you see all the commercials for IBS
Mm.
medications. But for instance, if you are doing it, so if you have tummy issues and IBS and Crohn's, I would suggest a lot of cabbage juice. A lot of cabbage juice, because if you don't incorporate cabbage juice in your juicing, you're not going to feel good, especially with the IBS. But if you start doing 16 to 20 ounces of cabbage juice every day, and within your other juices, if you're doing a juice cleanse and you have IBS, you're gonna be very amazed how your IBS symptoms will go away. You really are. It's
And
amazing, and there's studies on
and
that.
it's helpful. Cleanses are helpful for inflammation. People are
Huge.
experiencing.
Well, absolutely for inflammation, through inflammation from head to toe, because when your digestive system isn't working and you're juicing, and now your body's able to go to those areas in your body, whichever area has the inflammation. In fact, it's going to go to the area of your body that has the most inflammation and start healing. And that's why you start getting sick. That's why I got sick on day 4, because my body was now going to the areas of my body and pushing out all the toxins and all the problems that are causing that inflammation. So I was throwing up. I was getting like I was purging. I was getting rashes and acne through areas of my body that I never got them. And that was the detoxing process of juicing. That was my body saying, okay, let's get rid of this stuff. And it'll come out through acne, rashes, puking, headaches. That's how it all comes out. And I I knew that I learned that in my research. So when I was throwing up and feeling like total crap, I mean, I'll never forget that feeling. It was horrible. But and I'm so glad I started thinking about it. I'm so glad I stuck with it. But yeah, I got the rashes, I got the acne, I got the migraines, I got the puking, I got it all. I experienced it all, and it was not fun. But I got to tell you, the light at the end of the tunnel was everything, because that's what, like you said, Kati, when you're juicing and you're just juicing and you're not chewing and your digestion doesn't have to work, your body's able to identify the system that is in most need of care, and it goes there. That is the beauty of the body. That is the beauty of the body. It is an incredible, the body, I mean, we are light beings. I mean, obviously, this is a meat suit, but that meat suit is an incredible meat suit. It is incredible. It can heal if you allow it to heal, if you give it the right medicine to heal. And that is all the herbs, the plants, the vegetables, the fruits, that is the medicine. And it's what Hippocrates said, it's so. So it is so.
So what does Hippocrates speaks on cleanses? What does it say?
Oh, the
Hippocrates, like your background.
okay, I was gonna say, not the man. The man says let food be thy medicine, but yeah, and Hippocrates on juices is the law, the raw, I'm sorry, the live living enzymes, which is why the type of juicer is important. And if you can't afford a twin gear magnetized cold press juicer, that's fine. You can get a centrifuge juicer for way cheaper. But a centrifuge juicer does heat up the juice, so the enzymes are still living, but there's less of them living, and you have to drink the juice within 15 minutes of juicing. So you can get the much cheaper juicer. It's great, but just keep that in mind. When you juice it, you have to drink it right away. You can't, no, if you have magnetized twin gear juicer like a Green Star, you can leave it in your fridge up to 72 hours. You have to drink it within 72 hours. But
So Hippocrates says
what
about cleansing.
about cleansing? It's the living enzyme. Sorry, I digress. It's the living enzymes. Our cells are living. Okay, every cell in our body is a living organism. So when you drink living juice and raw foods, you keep those living enzymes within the cells of those foods come into our bodies, and it's healing those cells. Those living cells with those living enzymes are healing. That's important. Now, if you're eating dead meat and cooked foods, and I do that all the time, it's not really serving our living cells well, like the live living enzymes. So that's why it's important to have a juicing practice and a whole food, eating raw vegetables and fruits. It's important to have that in your daily intake. You don't have to juice all the time.
Even water has that.
Water has it, exactly. With the salt, and yeah, just keep that in mind. You want living enzymes in your living cells. Like and like, right? That's important. You don't want dead cells coming into living cells. Of course it's delicious and we do it, but you want to balance it. It's a balance. It is a balance.
It is a balance.
Yeah. So that's what's important. So types of juice cleanse, we did touch on that. Is there any?
Yeah, let's go ahead and see if there's any comments over here. Okay, so we have here, actually, I'm gonna give you a moment to share in the comments your questions. I do see a few of them. Okay, so we have a question here. So does that mean when I cook at home, is my food alive?
Well, no, no. When you cook it, it's dead. Yeah, you cook the living enzymes. The enzymes, once they're heated past a point, I forget the temperature, but like that's why people get dehydrators, and they dehydrate their fruits because it keeps the enzymes still alive in it. So, but if you cook it, if you cook your vegetables and your fruits, you're killing the enzymes. Is there some still nutritional value? Of course, yeah, there is. In fact, spinach, I think is better for you cooked than it is raw. So it just depends. Um, well, of course we cook meat. That's just nothing, and there's obviously, and people can argue this, but meat eaters would say there's something valuable about eating meat, but there's no living enzymes. I'm talking specifically about the living enzymes. The living enzymes in the fruits and vegetables is what is when you juice, and the kind of juicer you get will keep them alive longer or keep more of them alive. Now, when you use a centrifuge juicer, when you put an apple through a centrifuge juicer, there's still going to be a lot of living enzymes, but because you've heated it up a bit, a little bit of them will be killed off, if that makes sense. But don't not juice because you can't afford the $500-600 juicer. Get the $100 juicer, and you just have to keep in mind that when you juice it, you have to drink it right away, within 15 minutes, is recommended. I just drink it right away.
Can I jump on
Yeah,
this question as well?
absolutely. Go for it.
So, through the lens of Ayurveda, we do see it as, when you're buying whole foods, when you're buying from the farmer's market, you're buying from where it was recently picked, the food is still does have its energy. And when you cook it, it's still going to have that energy from it. But as soon as you, like, if we imagine, like, when someone transition, what do they do with their body before they have the wake? Don't they put it in a freezer? And so actually this when you end up putting your cooked food, which ends up having that energy, that time, that energy, that love you put into the food, that's energy into the food because that's your time and energy. But you put things in a microwave, you put things in the fridge. Again, this is touching on more on the whole food level as
Yes.
compared to juicing. We do still have that energy in the food, especially if it's never been in the freezer, if it hasn't been in the fridge, but it's been there where you picked it recently or you got it from the
Mhm.
farmer's market recently. And that's the part where actually food does end up transitioning. It ends up dying, especially when you freeze it. It's like the
Yeah.
life got frozen out of them. Now, granted, you'll still have a percentage of those nutrients in those food. When it hits the microwave, what happens?
I don't use a microwave, but you really zap it
You
backwards.
zapped
Yeah.
all the nutrients. You probably have maybe 2, 3, 4%. Please look it up. I'm not sharp on that number,
Oh, no, there's
but
studies on that. Yeah.
there's definitely studies on how microwaves actually zap out the nutrients out of your
Yeah.
food. So even though it is the easy way, it is coming back to you placing your hands back into your kitchen, into your space as far as cooking. So I just wanted to touch on as far as the energy being on the food, because
Yes.
even in Ayurveda, Ayurveda very specifically says food is our medicine.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Hippocrates has a very similar saying as well. And let me just go into this next question because I know we're going to have a Q&A section soon. And okay, we answered about the juicing. So we'll go into it more as far
Mhm.
as the juicing as well. And so why don't we just go ahead into the next section because we are already arriving into our time. And we want to touch on, oh, actually, is there anything you want to share before we
No,
go into next?
good.
Okay,
That's
awesome.
it.
Preparation. We have preparation and post
Yes.
after a cleanse. So, and why is it important? So, we're going to dive in, both of us together. We're going to go ahead and go back and forth with this. When we're looking at the preparation approach, and like again, Julia voiced out the importance of coming back to your why. Why are you doing a cleanse? Why are you wanting to reset? So it is coming back into that. And honestly, traditionally, and our traditions, our ancestors has always been doing cleanses in some form of way, especially enemas.
Oh, yeah.
so so
Yeah.
when we're looking at our diet now, we are so far from our own kitchen right now. We've been ordering food, we've been buying it, we've been microwaving it, we've been finding all those quickie waves. Now, if you have a relationship with the kitchen, high five to you. That's what's up. I will say that has been a journey for me. But, that preparation is more like, all right, reviewing your diet prior to even jumping into a cleanse. So when you look at your diet, okay, what am I eating? And how am I going to prepare my body before I shock it? Because a cleanse is a shock to the system and it can impact and affect you. Now, for example, Julia shared her journey with her cleanse, and this is without guidance. And with her research and her research within her holistic background and so forth. And obviously, I'm pretty sure that's what brought you into the field of
Yeah.
Hippocrates is to really have more of the hands-on practice and doing it like actually approaching it right. Because if we are not preparing our bodies for that next change and that next approach, we can shock our system. And especially if we have some imbalances within our body, if we're experiencing any diabetes, any low blood pressure, any symptom that we notice in our bodies right
Yeah.
now. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
So preparing, this was a learning curve. After so many juice fasts, I've learned you really need, well, you don't need to do anything. However, I would advise that you set your space. Make sure you have space in the fridge, space on your counter, where you're going to juice. If you have a family, make sure your juicer's not next to the microwave, and where you're going to prep your juices. And one thing that was really helpful, and I wish I did this in the beginning, but that's okay. I learned. I juiced a lot of celery. Think now in the beginning I didn't. I just a little bit of celery. Get that celery. I would pre-cut it the day before, the celery, and store it in the fridge. So you really need to understand your time. Do you work in the morning? So pre-cut it the night before, put it in a bag in the fridge or a bowl or whatever, get it out, juice it, that morning. That's really helpful. It's the little things that matter. So your space in the fridge, your space on the counter, where your juicer is, prepping your vegetables beforehand. If you could do big bags of cut up the carrots and the apples, and the celery beforehand, do that. Do like a whole bunch, days before. If you're going to do a 1 day, a 24-hour juice fast, or 2 day or a 3 day juice fast, then you'll know how you need to prepare, and it's going to be trial and error. If it's your first time, you really don't know how much you're going to be juicing. A good amount of juice to get in your body when you're doing a juice fast is 60 ounces or more. I always did 36. I always did no less than 36. I did 32, 32, 32. That's what I did. 32 ounces in the morning, 32 ounces in the afternoon, 32 ounces in the evening. So I had 96 ounces, and then water in between. And mineralize your water with Celtic salt. That's really important. That'll really help. That'll really help. So preparing is really about your space and your time. So really recognize your work schedule, your family time, and the space. That's going to be really important. And check in with a practitioner or even a doctor. But check in with a practitioner, really understand, and really be upfront and honest about your conditions. If you're doing it because you have a condition, be very honest about your conditions, because that's important. That's gonna make the difference. Your practitioner may advise different vegetables and fruits to juice, because if you have IBS, there a, a practitioner who knows what they're doing is going to say cabbage juice. You need to be on cabbage juice. If depending on your condition and the why and your intentions. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this juice fast? Really dig deep as far as your why. Because that's going to be important. That's going to really, really be important, because when you find it hard, you want to go back to your why. Why are you? And that's your intentions for anything you do. Why? Why are you doing this? So those are the most important: space, family, work, balance, and time. Because you want to be conscious of your time and your family's time and your friends' time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very impactful in general, like because we all meet together with food. So when you're on a
Yeah.
cleanse, you also want to set that boundary for yourself.
Yeah.
So when you are preparing, part of the preparation is everything that we just touched on right now. And also if it's your first time juicing, don't go ahead and jump into no 3, 5, 7 day cleanse.
No.
Test it out.
Yeah.
Start with one
Well,
day.
and preparing for that cleanse.
So
Yeah.
that's where each and every person, as I mentioned, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, each and every person is very unique in their body. So I highly recommend that please check in with a practitioner and to really make sure, okay, I feel like I resonate with this. I feel like I checked in this. Okay, I feel good. But if that gut feeling, now again, if you haven't done a cleanse, that gut feeling might be in and out. But you want to really make sure to check with a practitioner if you really want to excuse me, if you really want to dive deep into the cleanse. I know this is my body cleansing now, right now. And dive deep into the cleanse. That would actually also be very supportive with you working with a practitioner. So I want to go ahead and dive into questions because, again, we only have a few minutes left. And this is the time where we're going to go ahead and review a few questions. We did write down the ones that were listed on here. So thank you so much for everyone that has been able to share in where they're at and what their questions were. So let's go in.
All right. I see. What is the difference between juicing and smoothies? Huge. And I think I touched on that earlier. I strain it so there's no pulp, no fiber. And the difference is smoothies are great. I do smoothies all the time. But if you're doing a juice cleanse, the not doing a smoothie is important because you don't want your digestive system working at all. You don't want to chew. You don't want any organ system in your body that has to aid in digestion having to stop and work, because the whole point is to heal the body. And in order to heal the body, you need to give all the other systems rest so they can go and heal the body. And if if the digestive system has to work, then you're not really healing those areas of the body.
Wow. So within a smoothie, the digestive system
Yeah,
is
because
working.
there's fiber in it. So the digestive system has to break down that fiber. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what else do we have?
Um,
I know we wrote down a few of them that was listed on here.
yeah, I know.
All right, weight loss. That was one thing that came up.
Yeah. Of course, when I first did my first juice fast, I was huge. I mean, I'm still a big girl, but I'm getting there. So, but I definitely weight loss was important to me. Not anymore. Of course, I'm still on a weight loss journey. However, I don't juice for weight loss. I do not juice for weight loss anymore. I don't get on a scale. I don't check myself before and after. But I did the first time, and I lost like 22 pounds that first time within 28 days. Um, but again, I gained it back because I was still on a journey and still learning. I don't think I gained it all, but maybe I did. But you do lose weight when you juice fast. It's a natural thing because you're in a calorie deficit. It is what it is. Um, but I do not any longer do a juice fast for weight loss. I do it to heal my systems. And when you heal your systems, if you are overweight and you are holding weight, healing those systems will help get that weight off, really get the weight off, not just because you're in a calorie deficit and it's going to come back after your juice fast. And that's important. That's an important distinction. You want to heal the systems that are holding the weight. Like if you have a thyroid issue, if you have an endocrine issue, heal those systems because those are the systems holding that weight, a metabolic issue. If that makes sense, I hope that makes sense. Because you really want to heal so that you release that weight naturally through whole food eating. So,
Okay. So as far as people going on juice cleanse, exactly what Julia just finished mentioning. For myself, I know I definitely a part of me was going for weight loss for this time right now because I knew I gained a good amount. I gained like literally 10 pounds being out in Turkey, because I was eating all that goodness that was out there. But actually, it was also because I felt again the energetic part, the emotional part that I've also experienced earlier in the year. So for me, the weight loss was just a very small piece of it, honestly. but not everyone is going to experience weight loss. It's all about your intentions. So if your intentions is wanting to reset your system, that's what's going to fall into. And this is again, you work with a practitioner like, hey, I want to juice, I want to go on a fasting, but I don't want to lose weight. I just want to reset my nervous system. I want to reset everything that's going on with my liver and gallbladder. Because, of course, those are other types of cleanses as well as the liver and
Oh, yeah.
gallbladder. So, weight loss will be a percentage of it where your body will actually let go of the toxins that don't serve in your body. So, even if you did end up letting go of weight, it was weight that was actually stagnant in your body. And then from there, this is where the nourishment comes in. So, like for example, what we're doing here is juicing and bone broth, which is nourishment. So this becomes more of a healing, nourishing cleanse as compared to like fully detoxing out.
Yeah.
Our body's not fully detoxing because we're still getting the marrow, we're still getting the bone broth nourishment through the collagen, everything, as compared to cleanse where you're like wiping things out. That's where the juice cleanse comes in.
Yeah.
So just know that, again, when you work alongside with a practitioner and you have an intention of what you want to focus on, you're all set because they're going to customize it based on what your journey is and what you would like to accomplish in it.
Yeah.
So what other question we have?
Buying it. Oh, yeah, I saw that one. Store bottle, when you go and you see the bottle that says cold pressed juice. I'm not a fan. Um, I I just don't have much trust in that area. But look at the date when it was juiced, because cold pressed, I have a cold pressed juicer, 72 hours. So if that juicer is right at the tail end of 3 days, I wouldn't buy it. Look at the date. I will if I'm juicing, I'm on a juice fast and I'm on the go and I'm working and I have to go into Whole Foods and find one. I'll find one closest to the date of that day or yesterday and I'll chug it. But that's only if I have to. Um, but yeah, when you go in the store, make sure it says cold pressed and make sure the date on it's within 72 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just in case you don't run into that, because sometimes, it just doesn't align that way. At the end of the day, it does drop in back into your intentions.
Yeah.
And if you know, like, oh, I feel like today I just need to have juices. If you go to a juice bar, if you don't have access to a juice bar, but you go ahead and you see at Whole Foods or you see at Trader Joe's, wherever, whatever market that's there, and you see, like, okay, this was made, again, it comes back to that energy of focus, of intentions that you have. Because I know for myself, I don't have the green, what's it called? The
The
juicer.
Green Star.
The Green Star. I don't have the Green Star. I don't have the cold press. So whenever I am utilizing the juicer that I do have, I end up drinking it right away. But I do keep in mind when I'm on the road. So just know, like, at the end of the day, don't starve yourself if you're juicing and you just don't have access to it. Give yourself that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
What juicer do I? We talked about that.
yeah, we spoke about the
Mm-hmm.
juicer.
Mm. Why is juicing bad? Yeah. I
So,
think I
so there was a comment here of asking why, like, where in what position would juicing be bad for a person? And I really appreciate that question
yeah
because, in our society today, because it's been a fad, right? Like it's been something, is it fab or fad?
bad.
Fad. Because it's been a fad of people actually like everyone's cleansing, everyone's detoxing, and it ends up being not so great for people that don't check in with a practitioner.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think that's when juicing's bad, when you're doing it the wrong way and your intentions are off and you don't disclose your medical and you don't do the research. Because I think that juicing in some way, even if it's just one juice a day and then you eat whole foods the rest of the day, which is actually where I like my clients to go. You know, my goal is to get them in the practice of juicing, on a regular basis, whether it's celery juice in the morning and then they go about their business. Um, or, just juicing, just on a daily basis. I know that if I go a week without juicing, my body feels it. I feel it. I'm like, man, I need a juice. I crave it. I crave a lot of things that I didn't crave 15 years ago. Kale, you know? Um, yeah.
So why would it be bad? It ends up being an imbalance because people are just jumping into it. They're not preparing. That preparation of what we shared earlier also plays a role. So if you're like eating a burger one day and like, I'm going to go ahead and juice fast and didn't prepare your body to go into a fasting
I've
state,
done that.
and then it impacts you. So I know, like, for example, our systems are running different than anyone that has never fasted. But we've been on the journey. Our
Yeah.
body already knows about that
Yeah.
reset that it's going through.
I've done a burger bender and then juiced. It was not fun.
And I've also experienced from another soul, a client, that um she ended up juicing and she had diarrhea for an entire year. She had loose stool for the entire year. And so the thing is that she didn't receive an assessment first to see where her body was at,
Yeah.
and she just went for the juicing.
Sounds like she had maybe as IBS or something.
I mean,
Yeah.
what ended up happening, it ended up shocking her system, and she had like trauma with juicing. So she
Yeah.
decided not to juice anymore. And I was like, well, it involves more of checking in with your intestinal lining. And this is where I'm going to be
Mm.
sharing later about me and Julia have created an awesome package for the community, which we are providing a face and tongue assessment, and she's going to be providing her Hippocrates guidance as well, and where you'll receive 2 sessions with us. So again, this beautiful soul that experienced that, she didn't go through that. She just decided to start juicing it up, not knowing what elements she
And I
is.
wonder what she was juicing.
Well, it also involved the elements within her.
Yeah.
And this is also, she's also a practitioner. So she had to see for herself in her own body.
So I've heard this happening I've heard of this happening, diarrhea consistently, not quite for a year, and it was what they found is she obviously had to go seek medical attention, but um something she juiced had is it like a when you get greens and it's not washed properly and it has a bacteria or something and it caused a diarrhea episode for weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of
So
them.
who
And then
knows?
especially when a soul runs more of a certain element and they end up juicing that same element, which irritates within the intestinal lining.
Yeah.
So there's just so much into it, right? So that's what we can touch on right now, because honestly, it's a long list of why it's not ideal as far as juicing if you haven't received guidance or if you haven't done the appropriate research, and also check in with yourself. So yeah. So we're going to go into perhaps one more question. Let's see what we
Mm.
have.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, got 'em.
we've seen a few questions about the juicer, so we just want to clarify about the juicer. Okay. So I know for myself, like I shared earlier, I don't have the Green Star, which is more of the cold press, right?
It's a cold press magnetized twin gear juicer,
Mhm.
and it's magnetized to keep the living cells, the enzymes alive a lot longer. And then the Nama J2 has been my favorite lately because it's so easy, so easy. I use them both, but the Nama J2 is really cool. What else? And we could probably link both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably.
So we can definitely share in the link as
Yeah.
well. And but I know, at the end of the day,
And that's a cold
we
press
would
juicer.
love to jump in straight to the cold press.
Right, but
But
if you can't,
Mhm.
you a centrifuge, or you can even use a blender and a cheesecloth.
That right there.
Yeah.
So having a blender is still helpful.
Mhm.
So you'll lead up to that. Don't hold yourself back from
Mhm.
cleansing and resetting your system because you don't have a juicer, you don't have the most expensive one, the cold press one. You can still aim, because honestly, if we look at it, step back a little bit, we might have to go ahead and hit Walmart or Target where they have ones that are about $50. But again, those type of juicers are you won't get as much nutrients from it,
Mm,
and
still good.
it's still
Yeah.
good. You won't get as
I
much
started with
nutrient.
that.
Same here. I'm
My
down.
28-day juice fast, and I did a ton of healing, and I drank them right away, was the, a centrifuge juicer, a Breville centrifuge.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they're like 200 now.
No, actually, they're a lot less.
I when I got it, it was like 400.
Yeah, yeah.
This was years ago. But yeah, they're
Now,
cheap
now
now.
they're showing up like 50,
Yeah,
60,
the
$70.
Breville centrifuge juicer,
Yeah.
and
So,
I did that 28 juice fast with that one.
so knowing that, don't hold yourself back. If you have a blender and you can't pay for even just a juicer for that amount, that's completely fine. Use that
Yeah,
blender, because at the end of the day, this is you and your body's perhaps feeling the pull to go ahead and cleanse out. Okay.
they're really that much. They're really that
Yeah,
cheap.
they gotten down. The price definitely got
Wow.
down. I've seen it.
That juicer, that 28-day, I did a 28-day with that one, and I did a 30-day juicer with that one. A year later, I did a 30-day juicer with that Breville, and I did so much healing. So if you got $60 and go get that juicer, get
Yeah.
it done.
Oh, look, someone
Mm,
said that they do have that. Yep.
yeah,
You go ahead and
get it.
you go with it. So, one of the questions that was asked earlier when I was touching on Ayurveda is, do we change to Vata Pitta Kapha? And our birth constitution, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't change. It's always there. But life does impact us. Where if we, for example, I'm Vata Kapha, ether, air, water, earth, life can be so stirring where my foundation has been shook, where I end up leaning not only in my Vata and my Kapha, I end up leaning and showing imbalances that is Pitta. So if I start experiencing inflammation in my body, that's mean I'm far off balance. That means I got off of balance from my ether, air, and water, earth. That means that I left my body completely, and now my fire, which is meant to be balanced within me, has to come in, and now it's showing up inflamed. So that means I really came off the scale completely. And so we do experience that in life. This is part of the journey of life. We're going to have that dance of moving through every single element, but the imbalances, the physical imbalances that shows up, that's how we can see within ourselves, like, oh my gosh, I never have acne. Oh my gosh, I've never experienced inflammation on this level. Never. As soon as that moment that you say never, that means you're off. Something is off
Yeah.
of what you're normally within yourself, because there is no normal, by the way. What you are familiar within your body. Now, that also plays a part of what you were born with. Perhaps you were born with experiencing inflammation in your body. That just means you were born with more of that pitta showing up. So again, we will be exploring this more in other pop-ups, but more specifically, I want to be mindful of your time and our time and this container that we have here, which I'm so grateful to come into and share with you, to journey with us. Because right now we are on day 8 of this cleanse. And I am so grateful because I
Mhm.
have been feeling and noticing in my tongue as well of where I'm at. And I want to invite, yeah, if you are in search and wanting to go ahead and receive further support within a cleanse, or if you already are familiar with it but would like to dive in further, because this package that me and Julia have created, you're receiving a face and tongue assessment where I'm assessing, this is more of an Ayurvedic approach. I'm assessing your face, your tongue, looking at the organs of your body, seeing what state that is. And then from there, I'll go ahead and talk to my sister Julia, and then you get on a call with Julia. And then she will be sharing with you.
Choosing. And how we can help you and hopefully help you heal your body and mind and your soul.
And the recommendations that will
Yes.
go based on what's going
What's
on.
going on in
Because I
you.
can see your intestines, I can see your
Mhm.
liver, your lungs, your kidneys, I can see what state they're in, and I'm going to
Yes.
share with
And
her
when I have that information, I can help recommend,
very
yeah,
specific.
very specific route you should take with your juicing journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, again, this is very unique to every single soul. So as you're on this journey, just know that we do have a special rate for everyone that's on this call. And yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this recording now. But thank you so much for joining, and we can go ahead and chat and further on this.
Yes.
And just know again, do not hesitate to reach out. This is an elemental pop up. It's by donation. We're offering it every single month. I will be inviting other practitioners in to support the community so that you can know there's so many ways of you being able to tend to your body, mind, and spirit. So thank you so much.